I've only got 5 minutes, but I do want to pursue this issue about whether Mr. Krasner was invited or not. But we can come back to that in a moment. My understanding was that he was not, but we should.
Invited. That wasn't what. That wasn't what.
I'm not saying, but just for my 5 minutes,
we didn't invite him. But you guys could have if you wanted to.
I just wanted to know if you did or not.
No, we didn't.
Okay. Let me say this: there's sort of two hearings going on at once here, and I want to be very respectful, actually, of both. On the one hand, for the Fitzgeralds and the O'Connors, and I want to come back to you in a minute. I'm a former prosecutor at the federal level in Washington, D.C., and at the local level in Prince George's County, Maryland, and I had to handle cases like this, almost exactly like both of those. So I want to talk with you about it. It might make sense to do it offline, but it's a conversation I'd ask to have with you. There's also a lot of numbers flying around right now, too, and I'm not from Philadelphia. I just came up for the hearing, so I'm having trouble piecing them together. So I looked up last night. It says homicides during Krasner's tenure, and I noted that the chairman said in his opening comments that, you know, they peaked in 2021, and that was at 562. They went down in 2022 to 514, and then this past year, 2023, they went down to 410. Now, I also noted when I looked up the election results, he was elected in 2021 with 71.8% of the vote. So I'm having trouble sort of squaring the two together, that he got that, well, I can come to you later, but, you know, how he got that much support. And I guess there's more, you know, there's another election coming up, and I guess we can see how it fares at that point. But I did want to raise this issue, too. As I mentioned, I was a prosecutor. I started in 1990 in D.C. during the height of the crack wars. And the local DA here was a guy named Ron Castile, I guess. In 1989, the homicides were 476. In 1990, they were 500. And I guess he left. That's his ghost turning the lights down? I don't know. I guess he left in 1991 to run for mayor, and he lost that race. But I did want to kind of note that those two numbers, 476 and 500, were significantly higher, actually, certainly than Krasner's in 2023 from 410. Now, normally at a hearing like this, one of the things I would like to do is figure out why that's the case. You know, what was happening in 89, what was happening in 90, what's happening now. And then we would try and put together legislative priorities to figure out how to continue to bring the numbers down in Philadelphia and across the country. But that's not what we're doing today. And the chairman mentions, you know, crazy things about policies, focused primarily on Philadelphia, but I got to note a couple too. Ghost guns, which was referenced a few minutes ago. There's legislation in Congress to ban ghost guns, and there's no serious argument for having them available. They don't have serial numbers. The only reason is so they can avoid criminal prosecution. There are 0 Republican sponsors for that bill. I think it's 150 plus or something on the Democratic side. I've got a bill called Raise the Age, which would lift it from 18 to 21 for you to be old enough to buy an assault weapon. And I didn't think that would be controversial because current federal law already is you've got to be 21 to buy a handgun. I have 0 Republican co-sponsors for that bill. We're well over 100. Defund the police, which has been raised repeatedly by my colleagues. But I've got to note that I've got at least one colleague on this panel who's got a bill to defund the FBI and another one who's got a bill to defund the ATF. So, Mr. O'Connor, I'm glad your case is being handled in the federal court, but if that bill were to pass, they wouldn't have the apparatus to do it. So, you know, I think it's important for us to try and figure out how to continue to address these problems, and they're not easy to address. They're very challenging in a lot of ways. I don't think it's fully partisan either. When I was walking here from the hotel, I passed a billboard in the next block down, and it was by J.P. Chase, not exactly a liberal bastion. But they're trying to they're proposing efforts at reentry, trying to help people who are coming out of jail to get back integrated into the community and find jobs. And I think that's important. In fact, I started reentry programs when I was a local prosecutor because 99.999% of the people who go to jail, even for murder and rape, are going to come out eventually, even if they get convicted in federal court. So we should try and find ways to help get them back on the right track. And the Koch brothers. Not a group I typically praise. In fact, this might be the first time I've ever said anything positive about the Koch brothers in public. But I'll say this, they do recognize that we have to try and find ways to address these criminal justice issues in a bipartisan way. And sort of the partisan back and forth in a forum like this really doesn't get there. So I'm over my time, maybe not as much as some of the others, but I want to renew this request. You all don't know about this, but this is my 4th time doing it before this committee, for us to try and get to a point where we can move forward with bipartisan legislation, bipartisan efforts to address policies that can make a difference. Some of them are going to be conservative. Some of them will involve keeping more people in jail for longer periods of time. Some of them won't. Some of them might also involve dealing with the fact that we have 400 million guns in the United States. That's like more than one for any person in the United States. And young people in my community and across the country have far too easy access to getting them. And as we saw in Michigan, and apparently in your case as well, parents who are not willing to step up and keep them under control and keep them away from those guns. So look, I thank you all for being here, Ms. O'Connor, the Fitzgeralds in particular, because this is a weight you're going to have to carry for the rest of your lives, and you're doing an outstanding job with it based on what I've seen today. And I encourage you to do it because it's important to keep the pressure on. Beyond Larry Krasner, folks like the House Judiciary Committee who can do bigger things than we're doing today to try and address the issues that you've raised. Thank you for what you're doing, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I appreciate the gentleman. The gentleman yields back, and I would just say to the gentleman's request for bipartisanship, we did that 2 days ago. Your bill.
Oh, can I mention that? Can I mention that? Recruit and retain. So we passed a bill 2 days ago.
Gentleman's recognized again.
Thank you. So I co-sponsored it with a Republican from Texas. And we just thought the bill would fly through. But one of my Republican colleagues actually objected to the bill. In fact, it was more than two. So we know with a voice vote. But this is a bill to get more police officers, to find ways to get more police officers to join and to keep them around.
Let the record show the chairman did not object. I've supported the legislation.
I thank the chairman for that. I really do. But it's an example of the automatic sort of going to corners, going to talking points instead of finding a way to work together.
I think that bill will be on the floor in a couple of weeks and will likely pass the House of Representatives, which is what I think the gentleman from Maryland would like to see. Appreciate the gentleman. Gentleman yields back. The gentleman who came the farthest, the gentleman from California, is recognized.